Hello, this is Lisa Lee and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do another revelatory style reading. I've been liking these because it just sort of lets the gods take the reins, which is how I like to do it. We are working with Hermes, but there are some other energies too. I'm not totally sure like who they are, so we're gonna explore a little bit. We're gonna see what's here. Tunnel vision, your true self. Taking a stand. This is a lot coming out. I'm gonna let it be messy because this is not a you know, this is interesting what I'm seeing here because it's actually everything that we've been talking about. And so we're gonna address everything we've been talking about and a little bit, like, we're gonna get into it because like wherever there is like angst or fuzziness, or this is here. When we like just look at the cards as they came out, we've got tunnel vision, firepower. Okay, something here is that. And then we have your true self and your memories. How do we get back to that authentic voice? Like, what is it to even have faith? Like, is it just philosophical? Because that can be really frustrating. That's a lot of why people get frustrated with religion, because they go to like seminary and then they find out there's all this philosophy involved, and we want just like the highs and lows of sensation associated with anointing, associated with power, associated with magic. But this tunnel vision here in this fire says like there's something to like blow out, like I almost actually see like a plumbing problem. That's disgusting. I just got, yeah, our guys just showed me like a plumbing blow, like the poop out of a, oh, that's disgusting. Why am I looking at that, guides? So I saw like a plumbing issue resolved with the tunnel vision and the firepower. Like, we're gonna clear out at a really like intense, like maybe deep and probably toxic level with the desire and the toxic thoughts right underneath it. Because with your true self and memories, like that's what we're angling for. And with taking a stand and higher power, we're gonna talk about what that means. Taking a stand, is it taking a stand? Like, there's something here. I'm looking at our guides. Like, is it taking a stand at a higher power, or is it taking a stand with a higher power? And I think it's taking a stand with a higher power, but there's something there that's like a little nuance that we're gonna get to. And with the desire and the toxic thoughts, like in your inner nature, there's something to overcome. There's no two ways about it. And so let's see what Spirit wants to bring in with that. Let's first look at tunnel vision and firepower, as much as I don't want to because it's like stinky in the face. Let's do it anyway. So let's take some cards and see what we see on that. So the Cyclops is going to be a tunnel vision. See, this is what I see more than anything else. Look at her chains. You see her chains that she's holding? Like, she's got this power of fire, but she's chained to something. What's she chained to with the tunnel vision? So there's something about tunnel vision and being chained, and your power being chained, and your fire being chained. So let's take a look at it. Let's get in there. No more poopy visions, please. Seven of Wands is defensive. In defense, defending. What is it about defense that calls us in so much with this Page of Cups? Because defense without depth is not going to get you anywhere ever. You're going to be on constant loops of defense, defending yourself, defending the world, defending other people, defense. And then if there's no depth there, then you're not actually making any gain. There's no gains with it. You're not actually getting anywhere. And so like someone, I'm going to give this credit to Eddie for saying this. I think it was you that I was talking to on the phone that was saying, if I'm not, just correct me. Proselytizing is gross no matter what you're preaching, no matter what side of the like aisle you're on. Proselytizing is still disgusting because it's like a supremacy like debate. We learn how to do this with Christianity. We learn how to do this with everything that we have. I've been given in the way of like a Western world of arguments into decisions. Arguments to decisions is just like a very toxic way to get things done, like point blank. Look at the justice system that we have. Like, it doesn't actually work. If you have to get all the way in there, into the garbage system, into the putrid of what the justice system actually does and how it works. We can see it at a glance looking at government. At it, like government presents its Ereshkigal, it presents like its best face, and we're seeing that as being the most disgusting, vile cesspit. So if government's best face is the disgusting, viral cesspit, then you know its underbelly in the way of the justice system is even more disgusting. And so if arguments to decisions do not ever get justice, do not ever get anything in the way of progress, we need a different approach. And so that's what this page of Pentacles is about, because with tunnel vision and feeling like you're completely disempowered, there's no hope, there's nothing you can do, no matter how hard you argue, no matter how you say this, no matter who you meet, no matter what the position is, like there's a tunnel vision in just being like defensive without actually finding whatever that depth might mean, because that depth is what breaks you free. Having the right argument doesn't break you free. Having all of your defenses up and scanning for threats and scanning for supremacy at a certain point in terms of like taking in information and then deciding how it serves you, because information is going to serve you or it isn't. What you do with information that doesn't serve you is you move on. What you don't do is stay there with an agenda. And so that Page of Cups talks to like, you know, you have depth of character, depth of field. If you can't see the picture and you don't understand, like that's maybe not where, like, there's something here about judgment being a very toxic thing in relates to the desire. Like there's no two ways about it. And so to emancipate yourself and emancipate your power, casting judgment everywhere you look without any ability to affect change is going to reinforce powerlessness, because casting your judgment is you've got a limited scope of tunnel vision no matter what. We all do. We all see as far as our own perspective goes. Our perspective is as deep as our opportunities were. And sometimes we are people who haven't had any opportunities for whatever reason, because everything about society like really does its best to kind of tamper that down, to keep you from education and keep you from opportunities. You may be very book smart, but if you don't have opportunities, there is a depth of field that is missing at the level of tangible interactions. And there is frustration about there's no way in, no one let me in, and I understand that, but we have to come at this with the Knight of Pentacles related to your true self and memories, because there's something about your fire, your power, your passion, your drive, your motivation, your zest for life, your desire for things that feel good, all of that. To have that chained up under this tunnel vision, defense mechanism, lack of actually getting that depth or access to that depth or what it means to engage with that depth or even notice, Knight of Pentacles, that you're at a starting point with something. And so when it comes to your authentic voice and when it comes to memories, there's a call to go from to turn your head in. And when we talk about constructing a belief, we're looking at ourselves we're trying to find that inner voice. We're not getting the answer about what divinity is from all of the other things outside of us and judging and judging and judging and judging and judging and judging in this category and that category, and I am the expert on everything. You are the expert on you. And you get to take all of the information that is given to you and decide whether or not it's making you feel empowered or not empowered. And if it's not making you feel empowered, instead of arguing with it and arguing with it and arguing with it, there are two things at play. There's moving to someplace that makes you feel empowered, something that does make you feel empowered, making that decision away from something that isn't giving you an expansion. Or there's a need here to consider like a different vantage point here with your true self and memories as being something that you put the defenses down so you can see yourself. Because as long as you're diagnosing the world and diagnosing everyone in the world and finding fault with everyone in the world, there is a lack of vision left to put on yourself. You know, that tunnel vision, if you're like scrolling and just, that and this and that and this, and it's all me, and that's not me, and this is me and that's not me, and this is me and that's not me. If this is all that's going on all day long, like we've been in a sorting process, but what we are being sorted out of is hierarchy. What we're being sorted out of is supremacy. We're being sorted out of envy, and we're being sorted out of tyranny, and all of those things. The common denominator on every single one of those things is judgment comparison. And it's not that we don't see the world as it is and respond to it accordingly. It's that our primary focus is on ourselves. And that's a sorting process that we do from within. That's like super important. And so in terms of like, how do we find the gods and the guides? Where are they? Like, what does it mean? Like, in your nature, You're literally a universe. Like, you are a natural phenomenon. It's not like you are smaller, it's you are bigger. Identity is not adopting or rejecting dogma, philosophies, and views. Identity is having a relationship with yourself and your memories and a very real, rich story about what happened and how it happened and what it means. That's step one to having any capacity for channeling, is tell your story to yourself. And it might be like a very big mountain to climb when you start to think about what it means to sit down and say, I was born to these circumstances. This is what I think about it. I had these experiences. This is what I think about it. It gave me this insight. This is what I think about it. And in all of that is I am angry about. I am in love with. If you're only doing a retrospective on your life and including the parts where you were victimized or are victimized, you're forgetting that there's a big love story in that horrible relationship with a domestic abuser. And I'm giving a very hard example right now because I'm even giving that example from my own life. You can cut off the arm, you can amputate a bad experience and everything that it gave you, including the abuse. Like, there's a way that, like, we have a problem stepping back in front of the mirror of our former selves and looking at ourselves with compassion. Because when we just say the abuser had all the power and I had no power and I was completely screwed is true, that's true. And we put that at the top of the paper. Now we go to the second part of the paper. What was my experience of life in that story that I lived through? Now you get to explore. That's shadow work. Not just it happened and it was terrible, but what was the lived experience from your voice, with your memory, telling the truth and nothing but the truth to yourself. What happened? Is that ripping open your trauma and reliving it? Kind of. You want to do it with a lot of skills involved. You want to be able to do this storytelling and you want to do somatic therapy with it. You want to make sure that you have scaffolding in place, ways of gaining resources, prayer, spirituality, like everything that we do when we gather in these places and we listen to this stuff is in relationship to healing ourselves so that we can get two things at the very least. One, a really solid relationship with our stories, our experiences, and where we were coming from and where we grew to and what that growth looks like and what the message is therein for ourselves. Not at a distance of diagnostic, that person hurt me, and never going farther beyond that. But from a place of this is what that experience is like, and this is what that experience has been for me, even now. Even if you find yourself in a place where you are feeling victimized, what is this experience for you saying? Because what is the alternative when it comes to gaining a sense of your power, except facing what's there? Very, very clearly and without a million diagnostics of everybody else in defense of some grand, we do it to figure it out. We get this far to figure it out. We travel a great journey in diagnosing the world around us and everything that's wrong to get to the point where we now have to make use of some of the information or else it is not valuable at all. And so when we think about constructing an identity that is strong, that has access to vitality and fire and its own center of gravity and truth, and your channeling ability lets you express from a place of novelty. This is what if we put on the goal, what's the vision board? Boom. That's your emancipation, your freedom, your power. That's your goals. There are not other goals in a process where you are confronting a pattern of defense and in cycles of spinning out and exhaustion and siphoning of life force, because all of your power is being pulled into a powerlessness, and that powerlessness informs your position, and that makes you angry, and somebody is to blame. And now we're spinning out on dogma and proselytizing from different points of view, and it's just hatred, and that doesn't do anything, and it doesn't serve you, and it doesn't actually get you stronger. And so when we come back to what's going to get you stronger, What's going to get you this strength that is yours to have? If you feel disempowered, there's a path towards being powerful. If you feel disempowered, there's always a path towards power. Does power equal success every single time? Does power equal opportunities that are there for you that you like can see and grab and have that are available immediately? No, like it's a success in perspective that colors all the other experiences with that same success and perspective. Your perspective is the success. Everything else is going to be arbitrary storms, no matter what your life looks like. And so being strong in that perspective, and being strong in knowing yourself, and having access to the wealth of your experiences, not by running away. And we run away so many ways. We run away when we stay in cycles of defense without ever resting in a position about what happened for real, instead of the cycles of defense. And that's not saying you haven't done the work and you don't know. But I know from my own personal experience that I don't do this. I don't, I have to start doing this exact same thing, because I can report, just like you can report your horrible atrocity, pain, suffering. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned this week, and well, I learned this lesson kind of a while ago, but it's like a big one. This one like took my heart out, is that my pain is not special. My pain is not special. It doesn't make me special. It doesn't make me unique. It doesn't give me wisdom. Processing the pain gives me wisdom. Facing myself, facing the pain, that gives me wisdom. But it's by no means just like there's something that happens there. And what does it mean to face the pain? It means to not give it more. Well, it's like, this is going to be a conversation. I can feel the roar of validate my pain. Nobody's doing it. Your pain is valid, but what is the meaning of it? What is the meaning of it to you? What is the meaning of that pain to you? If the meaning of that pain is that you are powerlessness, we don't want to leave you there. Okay? No one wants to leave you there, and no one wants to agree to that for you. And so there's a pick up your mat and walk aspect to what it means to be in a healing journey that isn't just about the diagnostics with the Death card and the King of Swords. These are harsh words. Oof. I made a decision this week to never apologize for myself again, because that's not giving a good example. And so with this Chariot cards being about like moving you from a place of powerlessness into a place of power, we're not going to agree with your powerlessness. And that's what this debating endlessly at a low depth, just because you have a depth, just because you have an understanding philosophically of something, does not give you a depth of field at the level of soul. And so if you are agitated constantly without ceasing, then we are having a problem where work needs to be done. That's the only diagnostic thing that we really need to be like focused on, because it's not just that the world is crumbling. It is. It's not just that you were not like, that something has victimized you. Even sickness is victimizing to a certain extent. Because why can't you heal? Why aren't there doctors? Why don't we have the medical advances that we know that we could give everyone right now, because they exist? Why doesn't everyone have them? There's injustice built into every single thing, but the justice comes with your strength and your sense of your own power, and you being able to live in that power. That's the justice. No one gives it to you. And so with this Death card and this King of Swords and this Chariot, what it means to take a stand with a higher power, like that's what spirituality is all about. And that's what we're doing with spirituality. We're noticing that things are untenable. We're noticing that the structures and the stories that we were given did not hold up. We're noticing that the world religions that were handed to us have actually led to mass destruction and war. So we understand the perils with belief systems, but we also understand a necessity for belief systems. There is a long necessity, and it goes back all the way to the beginning to actually create and interact with sacred spaces. And there's so much power, and it's part of our inheritance. Most of us are cold cut off from what it means to actually like hold and participate. And there's this thing about like special. There's no chosen ones. There's a chosen path. And some of us have access to that chosen path a lot easier than others. And I'm going to tell you something that is probably going to be very difficult to hear about what that access is. I'm going to get a drink of water, because this is seeming, I see it before I say it, and I'm like, what? I'm going to say something that's probably even really controversial. And I don't know how to even say it. So I'm going to like sit with this for 1 second and just allow for Hermes to try and convince me to say this. Because, you know, like I think it goes against some like thinking. Honor your elders. What does that mean? What does honor your elders mean? What does it mean? Our elders aren't usually honorable. We're looking out on a patriarchy of like the least honorable elders, okay? We have been so butchered by false leadership that we don't understand that there's a natural ecosystem value to those that are older and more experienced having a maturity that those that are younger and inexperienced don't have. And there's a deferential there that I don't think that we have even a language for talking about. Because when we think of a differential between maturity and immaturity, we are so scarred and seared by hierarchy and abuse that we're fighting anything in the way of that. And so taking a stand with higher power is meaning like several things to me. It's meaning taking a stand with higher power in terms of like hierarchy is abusive because those who are holding the power cannot handle it. Ever. Doesn't matter who the hell you are. If you're holding power in this world, you can't handle it. If I hold power in this world, I can't handle it because it's not built to facilitate what it means to connect to each other as a net from a place of maturity and expansion to immaturity and expanding, and the relationship that is facilitated between those different ranks, because it's some kind of a rank. It's not a hierarchical rank. It's just that the baby bear is not going to be sent out to lead the hunt, even if they think that they want to be at the front. The mother bear is going to pat the baby bear back 10 feet with a big thud. Because however, you know, ambitious and enthusiastic the baby bear is about fighting another bear because mommy does it, the baby bear cannot fight the other bear because it will become food. And so the mommy bear has to she has got to throw the baby bear back, and then she's got to go fight with the bear and show what it means to fight with a bear. And this is in every direction. And so like we have the tower falling in every direction when it comes to leadership. And all we are doing with this defense and pointing and defense and pointing and defense and pointing is like, it's just this game of like defeating yourself at the root. And so when it comes to your true self and memories, get really clear on who you are and what your stories mean. What do they mean? Because wisdom comes from that process of discovery. And if there is wisdom that you want to attain for yourself, then you have to process your pain in a way that makes your pain coherent. And what it means for you to make your pain coherent is that when you're looking at your pain and there's no reason and there's chaos and there's never should be and I'm completely powerless and the victimization and the pain and the victimization and everybody and the things and the you and the me and the I and the me, like all of that is not it. It's valid. It's absolutely valid. But that's not causing wisdom. That's not causing power. And that's not giving you access to inspiration. That's not giving you access to your fire. And so we are taught in therapy often to just learn how to report our pain like it's a progress, like we're doing a book report. This happens to me and I have all the right answers on how to do it. And now I find that I deserve the positive regard that I'm getting. When we aren't parented and we're just parented by therapy, that is actually sometimes a real trap when it comes to identity, because you identify with what it means to properly report your pain instead of being held while you scream and cry. Having someone sit across from you, deadpan, while you learn to properly report your pain is something that needs work. Because you need touch at that moment. You kind of need someone who is there with you, who isn't afraid to physically hold you. And the society that we're in makes it impossible for people to minister to each other at the level of a hand on your shoulder, holding your hand. That right there should be a billboard of dysfunction. And what we have to overcome in the way of fear of each other and that defense. Don't try to touch me. You need to be touched. And there's nothing sexual about what it means for someone to hear what it meant for you to go through something and minister to you, not teach you how to report it properly or diagnose it in others. And so this death card with this King of Swords is like taking a different approach to ministering to yourself, is actually being able to like do more than just report the pain, but make meaning of it, make your pain coherent, because all of that powerless, that's an incoherent stance considering you are a powerful person. And then if anybody tells you that you are not a powerful person, at your core, if I were to look at you in the face and say you have no power, you are powerless, you would rise up like a tiger and you would correct me, because that is the truth in you, not a story about your powerlessness. So that's where we get checked. And so with this taking your stand with that higher power and connecting with your higher power, which is something that you can do only yourself. Anybody who's going to say, I'm the way that you connect to your higher power, I can teach you how to do it, this is how you do it. That's, people show you how they connect with their higher power as an example. That's where there's no judgment, because there's no argument, there's no persuasion, there's no proselytizing. This is my experience, this is what it looks like. I'm sharing it with you as an example. You make your own faith yourself. Because anytime someone tells you what your faith is, they're handing you a story, and that faith isn't going to hold, because it has to hold inside of yourself, or you're going to be looking for answers in everybody else when it's not holding inside yourself. When you don't have your own core strength of faith and connection to the divine, you're looking to other people to make it real. That's not it. The whole point of a spiritual journey with know yourself and memories is to make yourself powerful, quite literally. To make yourself powerful, to make yourself healed, to make yourself able to express yourself freely with power, to channel, to imagine. There's no formula there, and there's no true or false story there. There is a relationship with the divine, and that's a relationship with yourself in a very powerful way. And if you can't conceive of it, it's understandable. There is nothing about the world that we are in that isn't conditioned to move us away from that. Opposition. What's that? Man, I'm not even gonna. I'm feeling like the fire in this message, and I'm just like, whoa. But I'm fine with it, because I think everybody is in this astrology right now to have a come to Jesus moment. And by come to Jesus, I mean a moment of clarity where you see things clearly and you can't delude yourself anymore. And my moment of clarity where I saw things clearly and can't delude myself anymore is just, I'm not going to apologize for a single effing thing about what I'm expressing, how I'm expressing, and what it means to people. And I want you to be in the same position. I want you to find some form of such a conviction within yourself about your truth and what your truth means to have it spoken, that you're strong, and because I had to do this. It wasn't easy. It was really hard with the 6th house craft, the work that we have to do. What does it mean to have work, details, health, well-being, diet, service, daily rituals, contribution, organization, purification, skills, apprenticeship, method. The only thing that I can do is process my pain, make sense of it, process my vision, make sense of it, and offer it as wisdom. The same is true of you. Asking more of anyone, including yourself, is not starting at the right place. And so with this opposition that kind of comes in here, with this tunnel vision and this fire power, you have fire power. You have unimaginable power to tap into. And your process in the material world is to look at the circumstances, which are all oppositional, and find your power anyway. And that's work. And it's funny though, because it's not just like battle at work with the 7 of Wands and this Page of Cups. The task is to gain depth of field, and we'll ask questions about that. That's really hard. But we sort of when we step out of judgment, when we step out of like not judging others and not feeling judged, and when we stop judging every single thing in terms of whether or not it's serving us or harming us, because no one's going to serve. People are not. It's. This is contentious, and I understand that this is contentious, but I also understand that with your 6th house, what are you going to do? What are you going to make? How are you going to support yourself? What is it going to mean to go from a place that is disempowered to a place that is empowered? And there are definitely circumstances where work is not how you support yourself. For many of you, you're not meant to support yourself with work. But when I say support yourself, I mean support your emotional needs. Know where to go to get your emotional needs met. Figure out who the safe places and the safe people are and be in orbit of them. Make sure that the things that you're consuming are giving you nutrients. That's the 6th house of craft. It's like, how am I going to support myself and my needs given the tools that I have and the circumstances that I'm in? How am I going to take this story from powerless to powerful? Because that's the charge. Even if it seems hopeless, it's the charge when you are kidnapped, chained to a wall. It's still the charge to go from powerless to powerful, no matter what it takes. That's the only charge, because that's basically the survival aspect in it. And we don't want to have to survive. We don't want to have to be charged with our survival, but we might be. And it's very true that we are charged with our survival in the ecosystem, in nature, as beings. We get a certain amount of time where our survival has, is involved with parent type energies, with, tribes and things like that. And a good tribe will support you well into adulthood so that you don't have to have that challenge be all of your own. But survival is something that we all have to face when we take life on life's terms. And so survival and going from powerless to power, that's where the focus is, more than diagnosing every single person and every single thing and debating. That's not the right way in the door for yourself, because the 3rd house is about perception and what you bring to the world as a novel perception, what you bring to the world as creation, what you bring to the world as friendship, what you bring to the world as connection. Your speech, your thoughts, your social media, your excursions, your dating, your siblings, your research, your street life, your circulation, your discussions, your surroundings, your sociability. What do you bring? Where are you in maturity? There's no shame in being at a place where you have to look at yourself and say, that person is there with their maturity and expressing their authentic selves. And I don't feel like I'm exactly there. And that's not a condemnation of you or a condemnation of somebody who is. It's just allowing yourself to be a student when you're a student. And allowing somebody to teach you what you feel is they're living by example and it's showing you. And so with this 6th house of crafting your life, supporting yourself, facilitating your survival, and this 3rd house of perception around opposition, what is the story about you and the things that oppose you? Bottom of the deck, Libra. Because there's a need to harmonize, like all of us have to do this. Like, these messages are hard right now because life is hard right now. There's nothing to entertainment that takes you out of the misery only to put you right back in it with no skills, no tools, no philosophy on what it is to even kind of attend to this stuff. It's not about people approving, disapproving, people making themselves available, not making themselves available. Where are you with where you want to be? Where are you with stepping out of diagnosing, stepping out of judgment? If you're not powerful right now to save the world, you got to start with saving yourself so that you can bring with this perspective. You want to bring an emancipation with your perspective. The way that you bring an emancipation with your perspective is you are really clear on what it is. And it's not gathered from outside of you and repackaged as something that you know. There's no depth in that. There's no depth in that. It's practiced at the level of prayer. It's practiced at the level of ancestral worship. It's practiced at the level of reading and writing and talking and doing it over and over and over again until you have such a clear voice that those that are meant to resonate with it will. If you're not having a place of resonance with others, with your own voice, there's a reason why that needs some work. It's not a referendum of punishment and you're no good and you're not the better and you, me, us, them. No. If you find that you have a hard time speaking, that's where you start. You don't start with someone who has a good time and easy time speaking, assuming that it comes naturally to them or came naturally to them. You start by thinking that they struggled, that they battled hard, so that when you're struggling and you're battling hard, you don't get mad. You get inspired. Struggle to look back at the situations in your life and make sense of them. Struggle to wrench meaning from the harms done you. Struggle to forgive those that did the things that they did so that you can emancipate yourself. Struggle to face that anger in a way that makes things coherent. And there's an art to it with this Libra card here. With harmonious, cooperative, balanced, socially aware, artistic, people-pleasing, fair, idealistic, aesthetic, choosy, aspirational. We got like a list here. Look at your past. It was chaos. It was a misery. What did you learn from it? This thing, is that thing of value, that knowledge? No. Well, make it of value. That's a perspective thing. Read every book that you've ever, look up every book on the subject of the thing that you've gone through. Read everyone's account who has gone through something similar. Find the meaning that they've made of it. Incorporate it with your meaning making. Make your life harmonious to you. Bring some form to that chaos. There's some cooperative elements here. There's aspects of I can't forgive, I'm so angry. Okay, now you're going to be the expert on forgiveness because that's what the world needs. It shouldn't be like that. Well, that's the way it is. We have to take life on life's terms. If we're just battling life, we're staying immature. And we're not making any progress. And so that death here with the King of Swords, head off. There is this feeling that, what it means for you to connect with that true self, to step into the place of these memories. If you can't access any of your childhood memories, you are in good company. Because I know what that means. I have the same thing, okay? There's nothing that cost you your childhood memories that I can't identify with, I can assure you. And so instead of sitting at the shore and saying, I can't remember my childhood, I want you to take a little picture out of yourself from when you were 5 or when you were 6 or when you were 7. I want you to dig out the pictures when you had the most, the things that you do remember, that did stick, that were traumatic. I want you to take out those pictures and I want you to begin a conversation back into time and dig and unbury that child. And do something with what it means to discover what you discover. Because yes, of course, when we have these ideas and we're not really sure and there are boogeymen, there's this question of am I imagining it? Is it true? I want you to work with the symbols that come up for you without needing a story to be true or false. Because you're reconnecting with a child who had an imagination. And whatever that imagination was doing, what it means for you to connect with that child is to let yourself read those symbols. When you're looking at that picture of yourself at 5, 6 years old, what do you see? Does it make you sad? Does it make tears well up? Why? Be curious. That's the beginning of that child opening up to communicate with you. Don't just shut them down. Don't tell them to shut up. They're quiet. They're afraid to speak. You're not interrogating them for true or false. You're just spending time with that version of yourself and you're saying, thank you for surviving for me. I remember you enough to know that you bring tears to my eyes. I remember you enough to know that that was your favorite dress. It's the only memory, but I remember it and I love you. There's ways in which you can kind of begin to instigate a relationship with yourself, not just at the level of I've got it all figured out, but at the level of I don't have it figured out and I want to spend time with me and I want to know me. And the same care you would put into loving somebody else and wanting to know about their childhood and what do they remember and what hurts and where are you right now, because you seem foggy and you seem upset and it must be related to something. Talk to me about it. That's it. That's not just hearing the report about what happened. That's actually allowing for the emotions that existed in that space too, and then bringing meaning like balm over the wound. Writing, stories. When we engage with art, it's so that we can access the things that we don't remember. So that we can channel from places of ourselves that we have in the recesses of our unconscious mind. And it isn't about true or false, right or wrong. None of that shit applies at all to what it means to connect with your memories in order to discover your true self. Not connect with all the media that tells you identity, that's me, that's not me. No, connect with your memories that tell you who you are. And how we do this with that Death card and that King of Swords, with such a hard life, such a hard world, bottom of the deck being flow, how we get into a place where we can get into flow states is we embrace the truth that we were victimized by the world that we're in, by the people that are victimized by the world that they're in, and all the distortions and all the disgustings, and there is such a thing as evil, and like, what does it mean to that quiet with this embracing at the shoreline of the expanse that is your inner world is way more valuable than 1,000 diagnostics. And so that's where meditation comes in, and that's where a spiritual power and a spiritual relationship and a spirituality comes in. And so part of what it means for you to take a stand right now with the opposition that's all around you, with everybody is a terrible, no good person, because right now it's bringing out the worst in people. You think that it's bad? Wait until competition for survival at the level of like bone cold hunger becomes a reality, and it will. People aren't going to be their best selves. This isn't going to be a time when people have the bandwidth to be anything but raw, and if raw is neglected and hurt, then vengeance will be the only language that comes through that. Starvation is angry every single time. And so getting yourself fed, you know, and I make this as a focus because all that I do and everything that I am is creativity as a spiritual practice, meaning you use your creativity to practice your spirituality, to get in touch with that inner voice, to figure out who I am, what I need to do, what is my purpose, what do I do in the circumstance, what is my purpose in the circumstances that I'm in. It means writing to yourself, drawing and thinking and contributing to that inner world, meditating with yourself, going into memories, making meaning of them. It's nourishing yourself. There's this aspect here that is nourish yourself with your spiritual practice. If it's not nourishing you, I'm gonna get out of the way. You know, and so this call to like be nourished by the things that you do and the things that you engage with and the meaning you make of your life. Not for sale, not to make products, not to sell yourself as something, but to get that center of gravity that no matter what someone says about you, it's not going to affect you. To get a sense of your own power so that you walk with power no matter what your circumstances are. It's possible. There are people who live this example. As a purification here with desire and toxic thoughts. And there's a purity underneath that. You know, so what is the purity? Like, you know, I was watching, I like this tarot reader. I think her name is Jess Plunkett, and maybe it's the Chaos Witch or something the Witch. And she's been talking a lot about like the innocent people, you know, and that came up on a TikTok as well. And so that purity, cultivating innocence is not like, you know, austerity. It's not like sexual, like celibacy, like cultivating innocence. And it's like, the word innocent is like, you know what I mean? But there's cultivating purity that is sort of the same meaning. You know, what was she referring to with innocence? It was like, I have to go back. You know, I listen to these things in the background, so I don't always remember what I hear, like when or what context it is, because I'm not a close paying attention person. But it's basically authenticity. You know, authenticity is going to be like a power. It's the most significant power that there is. When somebody walks in a room with authenticity, that's what I mean by like maturity. When we talk about maturity and immaturity, when somebody has an authority in the way that they speak, when they are connected to whatever their creative channel is, whether it's music, dance, art, you see it. You see it flow through them. You see the expertise. You see the maturity in what their practice has brought them by way of like fluency and being in flow states. And so if that's something that's difficult, there's a way, you know, like it's not, you know, and so with this, that way is that purification process. I was watching a horrible documentary. Oh man, what is it? Yeah, I was watching this horrible documentary, and it was about murders. And the mom said, you know, the circumstances that you find yourself in, where you have no choice but to be strong, and strength becomes all that you are. That's an experience of yourself as strength. because it becomes all that you are. That's part of what that purification is. That doesn't mean you put yourself in harm's way. It means that when you find yourself in a situation where their only choice is strength, then the answer is to become the strength and to have strength become all you are in that moment. To say to yourself, I feel like I have no strength and I'm going to die, and say, I am going to become strength and become strength. And there's a perspective shift that happens from the internal, like, core of your body outward. And I understand the pain of somebody who finds themselves kidnapped, chained to a wall. I get it. There's no one who's going to say that that's not valid and that that is not a victim, and that there is, and that does not look hopeless. But the spiritual charge, the taking a stand with a higher power, means no matter where you are, you become strength. You become strength. Because the purification here is about, we shed the outer world to a certain extent. And so where we are depending on our influences to inspire us, where we are depending on other people to tell us what is and what isn't, where we are depending on external, sorting systems to create an identity. Purification is about your connection to you, your sense of you, your own essence. That is spirituality. That's like, you can be secular and totally atheist, and that is the most valid spirituality in the entire world right there. Or you can ratchet it up a knot and let it, your psychic abilities tell you how you express your spiritual vision. And that's going to help you situate yourself with people who are expressing vision similarly. But nobody expresses vision the same. And when people express vision the same exact way, we kind of are moving into like dogma at that point. And so to emancipate ourselves from dogma is to get really powerful in expressing our vision our own unique way, translating the experiences of our life, the wisdom that they have given us, into a practice where we get really good at prayer in the form of creativity that gives us insight about who we are and what the world is, not from outside sources, but from inside. And so with desire and the toxic thoughts, if every time you have to, like, if desire is like a dirty word, if there's nothing to be desired, like, what toxic thoughts wrap around your desire? What do you want to be? Who do you want to be? All the toxic thoughts to say, none of you can't be anything. Victim of the world, the pain, the sickness, it's all there. But we have where we have to take life on life's terms. That might be the hardest lesson there is, but an alchemist and a magician and an alchemist knows that taking life on life's terms is the initiation. And then from there, we get our emancipation and we get our power. And so purity and purification, authentic expression, is just as easily encapsulated in the word pure. Pure you. Not you dressed up as someone else, not you mimicking someone else, not you hating someone else and being the opposite expression, not you finding the people who are like you that all agree. Like, that's not what it is to become authentic. That's what it is to seek power in groups, which is understandable, but we're trying to get away from that and more into a place of your power comes from you. It doesn't come from consensus of everybody around you, because no matter what that is, it's always going to cost you at the level of your own expression. Because if you have to say homogeneous, if you have to say same as, if your growth has to fall within the parameters of groupthink, no matter what that groupthink is, we're not being inspired by the divine in the way that we're maximizing that inspiration, in the way that we are getting a relationship with what it is to channel and not have tunnel vision. We're opening ourselves up and we're looking at our life as the palette of paints that we have to work with in terms of making this picture. And then we learn how to use those paints, and we find out that at first it's very sloppy and we can't find our voice, and we just make this thing that is ugly and nobody's gonna like it and no one even cares. That's still doing something that requires the validation of others in order to be true. And we're actually saying that that is a spiritual misnomer, and that what you want to do is find your voice. And that is a process of prayer. That is a process of prayer and crying. That is a process of remembering what you loved. When you are grieving over the losses, what did you love that you lost? You lost hope that the world was a good place, and you loved that hope. You lost hope that you would ever have romantic love that wasn't toxic, and that you loved that hope. You had hope that you would have the kind of recognition in your career that would give you like support and everything that you were looking for and putting all that work in. There's a lot there that you loved about the things that you now feel bitter about. And the charge here with the new pearl, because a pearl is created in a shell and it's a little piece of sand that agitates. So think about the new pearl here. When we think about this purification process, we understand that this is not an easy thing. The pearl is created because there's an agitation, and that agitation, the pearl, the clam is paying attention to the agitation. When you pay attention to your agitations at a level that is like a personal level, why am I so angry that, you know, and like you can pick anyone. I can do an example. Why would I, you know, why are you so angry that I don't know, what am I angry about? I have to think about it. Oh, the people plagiarize you, right? So, and the answer is because it has nothing to do with anything other than when I was a kid, like I got no attention and I was completely neglected, and every single time I did something, it was like as an older sibling, there was a situation, I love my sister, she's great, but like my point is, I had to go to a place in prayer and with the cards where I discovered just how bad that hurt and why. And that doesn't make it right. It doesn't let someone off the hook, but it does let me free of ever caring again. I'm never going to care about that again, because I now know like the core wound it was associated with. I have a story that I've been able to cry through and work through. And I started at anger and misery and screaming, and I ended at like just knowing how much it hurt to be like abandoned and misused that way. To have like what I was doing taken in the way that it was when I was little, you know, like to have like that authentic expression hurt so deeply as a baby in all the different ways that I experienced it. Now I've made meaning of why I feel the rage that I feel, why I faced what I had to face, and what it means for me to heal that at the level of nobody can ever affect my sense of my own self-worth ever again. Because when somebody hurts you, they're devaluing you in their own eyes in order to get one over, to do something wrong, to get away with it. They know that you see it. They know that it hurts you. And what it means for them to delude themselves about that is that they don't show you that you are of value, that what you can contribute, what you are contributing is of value. They fight with it in all different ways. And so that's not my problem, and that's not anyone's problem. Your things that you feel from other people in response to you, like you're always going to be triggered by certain things. But if you've got that stuff healed, I'm at a point, I did the work. You know, I went through my shit and I was like, oh my God, this has been horrible my whole life for all these reasons. And this is why it hurts so much. Because it's a cruelty at a core that is related to something that is much bigger in the way of a life story, that now that I have done all of that excavating at the felt level of prayer with gods and ancestors, and I've made meaning of it, and I've turned it into my voice, and now I have the wisdom to make 1,000,000 chapters of art with it. And that's what you can do, and that's what you should do with everything that agitates, like the piece of sand in the pearl's mouth. If it's agitating you, ooh, it's connected to something. It's connected to something with a story, and you are meant to make meaning of that so that it no longer agitates you. And that might be gymnastics of faith, but once you've done it, you have wisdom, and that's the formula right there. And so with this purification process, purification is not identifying how pure and perfect you are and everybody else isn't. You know, it's not 18 theories of suspicion, you know what I mean, in every direction but your own face. I know what it is to sort of be in this position. I was in this position the last like week and a half, and like those toxic thoughts over my desire, man, what a stumbling block, what a thing in the way. And the gratefulness I feel for the astrology that makes me face my own demons. In the same way, I'm grateful for the agitating little pieces of sand in your like clam, because that means that you're well on your way to becoming a new pearl. And embracing yourself, truly embracing yourself, embracing the story of your life, not fighting with it. That shouldn't happen to me. That isn't right. If that didn't happen, I would be this other person. But embracing the story of your life, that is hard when we have made mistakes, or we perceive ourselves to have made mistakes. But there's a reason why you made that mistake, and there's a story around that reason why you made that mistake. And there's a reason why you stopped making that mistake. And that whole journey is of value. Not just identifying it was wrong, it was right. Get out of the therapy model. We get so taken out of what it means to connect with ourselves when we have to sit into a chair in a stoic way and report our pain. That isn't good for anyone, I promise you. And as somebody who has a education, very, very extensive education in psychology, like I'm not knocking the profession. I could choose to be a therapist and I don't, you know? And the thing is, it's because of the value of the spiritual practice applied to the psychology of everything that I see a possibility for healing. I don't see it without spiritual, like, something. And I mean that at the level of, you don't have to believe in a specific story, but you can believe in a process of emancipation that allows you to connect with the forces of nature itself. If that's your preferred method. You can have a preferred method that is Jesus. You can have a preferred method that is Buddha. You can have a preferred method that is literally anything that you can conceive of. The one thing that you need to understand is if you are having the experiences and you are facing life on life's terms, meaning this is what's going on, this is the experience that you're having, you can't argue with it, then you are meant to make meaning of it. And fighting with it is not what this is. And so when you're able to say, well, I know, but this is scary. I know, but this hurts. Like, that inner nature, man, that inner nature. You know, we're exploring spirituality. We're getting access to gifts that we haven't had access to since before the patriarchal reign. And it is confusing. And there are those of us who are having an easier time of it. Some of our gifts are coming on real strong and people fly into psychosis. Some of us have gifts that scare the crap out of us because it doesn't make sense in the framework of anything in the world that we're in. And so there's no language to it. Some of us are confronted with a feeling like we are abandoned by God and that nothing accesses us at a spiritual level and that there just doesn't seem to be there, you know, stuff for us, but there's stuff for everybody else. And what does that even mean? That piece of sand in the clamshell is the beginning. The area, the arena of inquiry, the figuring it out that you do, boots on the ground, is prayer. And creating in that prayer, and creating through that prayer, and connecting to whatever form of the divine holds your faith in a way that you can believe it, that you can like, tangibly believe that it's rationally possible. Because you don't have to blind faith a damn thing. You just find a belief that works, that facilitates that communication with yourself. You know, it facilitates that process of discovery. Because that desire, the toxic thoughts over your desire, what is your desire? To have power. Good. What are the toxic thoughts around that? There's a whole bunch of them. If I have power, then somebody else sees my power, and they don't have power, then they hate me, and then this is the way that life is. Blah, 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 blah. Everybody, all of us. Don't tell me another thing. If they have power, and then I have power, and then like I hear the chatter. It's static. It's symbols. I don't care. The point of the matter is everybody, and it's not just this group. The whole you can't stick your head into a collective space without hearing absolute garbage go like that. And the point is not to shut down everybody, everybody. That's not the point. The point is, I feel disempowered. I need to feel powerful. I don't care what I'm looking at in the way of circumstances. Every advance of the human species came from somebody defying their circumstances. Every single one. All adaptations, all evolution, every adaptation and evolution comes from someone defying their circumstances. So a spiritual walk and spiritual work is in galvanizing the forces of yourself and the forces of nature within you and connecting with the forces of nature outside of yourself in a spiritual coherence that allows you to gain power over your circumstances. And again, that ranges from chained to a wall, kidnapped, to born in a millionaire's home. That's a huge range of circumstances, and they all tell different stories, and one is not better than the other. But we are all responsible to speak our truth. So help us God at the level of authenticity in order to move the needle forward. Pilgrim, opportunities for growth. That's what we're going to look at when we have this desire, and then the toxic thoughts, them and me. With the astronomer, discovery, augury, lightning, flash of insight, the chariot, moving forward, inner nature, wild as can be. Who's going to tame it? Only you. Purity, finding your voice, embracing that the way that you've been doing things, if it's not working for you, has to change. That's a responsibility right now. And then when you think about what that change looks like, well, what do I want to believe? No one's going to give that to you. I mean, I can give you my belief. You can do whatever you want with it. You can also pick up a belief from anywhere else, but it has to become yours, not by way of acquisition, conquering, mine, sold, bought. No, that's not it. You practice. You sit in prayer, you light the candles, you put yourself into a trance, you paint something, you interpret the meaning. Now there you have it. That's step one, you know. And it might be fun, or you might be in a bad mood, and it might be the piece of salt or the piece of sand agitating inside the clam, anger. You know, now you need to do like a rage purging, and you need to write it all down. I hate you, and I hate everyone else, and I hate everything, until you have exhausted that rage, and then you're going to look back and you're going to answer it from a different place, having exhausted it. There's so many ways in which we get creative about processing, but the creative processing is not pointing and blaming and pointing and blaming and pointing and diagnosing and identifying this and that. The creative process produces catharsis, and there's a formula to it, and it involves prayer sometimes. It involves raging at the gods. If you've heard how many of my prayers are like me cursing out my gods, you would be astounded. They love it, frankly. You know, they think it's kind of cute. And I think that for you, that's a relationship that I had to go for a long while with what it meant to, you know, fight with the gods, pray to the gods, love gods, fear gods. Like, making meaning of it for me has created what I believe. And it has created my identity and my sense of my own power. And I have had to do a lot of work to feel like no one can take that away from me. And now I can move forward. Couldn't move forward before that. But that's okay, because we're all in different places of maturity. And where you find yourself in terms of maturity is in relationship to access to your voice. And there's no bad, naughty, evil. There's just, do you have access to your voice? What does it sound like when you listen to it? Are you able to communicate everything or just a little bit? And I get that there's issues with it, like, you know, being particularly verbal or not being particularly verbal. Your voice can come through a painting. Your voice can come through a song. What does it mean for you to be heard? What does that expression sound like? And it's like, I know that many of you feel a certain kind of way, and I felt that way before in my life too, where I feel that way right now when I make things and I put them on the internet and they get, like, you know, puny views, and I look at the competition and I don't even understand what in the force of nature would make that be. Like, I actually do, like, have that feeling, and maybe that's, like, you know, kind of like, I'm not going to apologize. I see that as true for myself, you know, and I understand that there's a reason. I do get it. Like, I know what's at stake. I kind of know what I have, you know, to offer, and I know the forces of the universe and what it means to operate within those forces. But what I'm trying to say to you is that the value of your voice is not in how people receive it. That's not where you're going to get the value in your voice. The value is with finding your voice and what it means to find your voice. And this is really super important. Finding your voice is not finding an audience for your voice. Finding your voice is experiencing the catharsis that your voice is able to give to you. And so finding your voice, again, I'm going to say it like, write it on a wall somewhere. Finding your voice, it has nothing to do with reception and how it is received, and everything to do with whether or not your voice brings forth catharsis and power for you. Once it brings forth catharsis and power for you, that's when it's of little consequence who hears it. But I can almost guarantee you that once you've been able to do that for yourself, it becomes a skill that you're able to give to others. But it does take a lot of work. It takes doing your work with the cards and a journal all day long, crying and being frustrated with the answers. A lot of times, like, we're taught to use the cards not when we're upset. Like, that's the thing that I see a lot of times, and I think that's a terrible idea. I think you use the cards when you're upset, because all of that energy is going to things are going to confront you. You love someone, you want them to love you. The death card. Now you have to confront the death card. What does it bring up in you? Oh, there's my person. I love them. There's nothing I have to. Now you know that sand. There's where we need healing. We need to find a voice around this. So now you start writing. I want this, but it's possible that life on life terms equals that I'm not going to get it. The circumstances against the desire. Instead of having toxic thoughts, I'm going to work these toxic thoughts out. I'm going to make art with what it means to express this. And when I receive that catharsis, that understanding, when my voice is able to take me from the problem into a place of power by way of communicating it to myself, very honestly, you go from, I want them and I'm going to die if I can't have them, to, I want a kind of relationship in my life that gives me the following things. And now you are empowered, whereas when you're trying to control somebody else, you're not. I want that opportunity is the same as I want that person. The Pilgrim, opportunities for growth. With every desire that you have, there's an opportunity for growth. With every denial of that desire that you have, there's an opportunity for growth. And finding the meaning is finding your voice. So this is where we're going to leave it. Let go of perfection. It's good enough, and so are you. Make some time for friends. This isn't just a you by yourself fighting the good fight. The discovery and the augury is about finding people who are in places of maturity where you can hear it, you can see it, you can receive it, and appreciate that as something that is for you, like at a distance. Don't compare yourself to somebody who's at a distance. Just see it as you at a distance. Don't compete with someone at a distance, because that's defeating the purpose of learning. You have to make your own faith. And this is, channeling this message through. This is my gods, my guides, Hermes, the whole crew of energies that I work through and with. All of it is just, this is the best that I know how to do, and it does for me really good. And even if I end up spinning out, hating the fact that like the reception of my voice doesn't match my expectation, I'm still stronger in my voice now than I've ever been before, because I've gotten to the bottom of that with myself. And I know that there is like the trite aspect of like, that's what I do that all the time. I'm always, and then power. If you don't feel empowered by your processing, then go back and process again. And if you need someone to minister to you in order to get to that place of vulnerability where the wound was inflicted and that's where the love is, then you work on what it means to make some time for friends. Because reporting correctly the pain that you've suffered is taking you away from yourself, and it has taken you away from yourself. Instead, letting go of perfection. You don't need to be perfect. You're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's just trying to survive without tools in a world that is designed to destroy them. And so we're going to put the defense down, and we're going to look at the lack of depth of field. And the lack of depth of field is only when your efforts at communicating are ineffective. Because there's a tunnel vision. There's a reason why that is. That doesn't equal to you being chained and your passions being buried, but actually signals that there is a sand in the clam opportunity for growth, where discovery and the process of discovery is required. And that does mean connecting with authors, connecting with people, connecting with experts, connecting with what it means to examine that agitation. And instead of feeling an injustice at every agitation and a powerlessness that the agitation exists, and feeling like this shouldn't be, and so there's some other thing, and going to some weird holy war in your own tunnel vision, no, not it. And it's okay. Let go of perfection and think about what are the concepts at play. What are the concepts at play? What is the directive? Is the directive that you give it all away and obey somebody else's edicts? No, the directive is that you figure it out for yourself. Is the directive that somebody did it to you and now you're a victim and now you have a powerless injustice of how did it happen? No. No, there are things that are confounding and confusing for everyone. There are experiences that are individual experiences that happen, that when we don't understand it and we're scared, we can start, we have to blame somebody. Somebody's in charge. Somebody can fix it. No, life on life's terms. What is this? What is this? Why is it happening to you? What does it mean? It's often not about somebody else's fault to fix it. Blame doesn't fix it. You can identify somebody hit me. If they actually hit you and you're sure that they hit you, you can identify somebody hit me. And you can say that that's wrong and you were a victim of that punch. But then you find a way to become empowered. You don't stay disempowered forever more. And to the extent that we're in the wild west of spirituality and we are where the veil is thinning and people's gifts are coming in faster than they can process them. And there is nothing in the way of a roadmap right now. And so what we have in the way of the chariot and looking to that inner nature, connecting with the gods, it's a tricky thing. We know that it's a tricky thing. There are world religions built about what it is to contain it. But we're all meant to find a way to contain it. And it's an adventure. But it gives wisdom. And there's miracles that can come of what it is to engage with this adventure. And so this realization here, the frequency of realization supports the internal process of becoming aware of our heart-centered truths, as well as the external process of becoming our highest expression in this world. And with miracle, the frequency of miracle supports our belief in ourselves as part of source and therefore our belief that anything is possible. This is not a card of powerlessness. Spiritual belief is not a powerless thing. A belief in a placebo pill will heal you. That is a fact. What we do to get there, what we do to manage all the forces of inner nature, what are you experiencing with spiritual gifts? That's related to your inner nature. That's how it expresses. If it's unruly purity, you're meant to tame it with belief. That's your responsibility. And there's a miracle in there for you when you do. Because then you have access to the gift. And you can use it. And you can use it and you're a couple rungs up at that level of maturity. And you use it for yourself and you use it for others. That catharsis comes in. And so with that, everybody, I'm going to leave it there. Sending you lots of love and light for this week, clarity for this week. It's a circus of a time and it's a storm of a astrology season. But there's power to be had here with that lightning card. And I really just hope for you in this week that you grab hold of it and move into this week with that power. And so we're going to leave it there and I'll see you again soon.